Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Another lovely day so far here in the Ozarks. And I know that some of you are getting kind of irritated at the cicadas. I've seen the comments. It's a little quieter this morning. I can't do anything to stop it. I mean, I've had some people say, well, try different microphones. Well, you're still going to hear it, okay? It's loud. At times, it's very loud. And I hate to be insensitive, but the phrase not going to make it does pop into my head that if the sound of cicadas is so traumatizing or so overwhelming or so overpowering, you just have to deal with it. I mean, you don't have to watch the channel, but I can't make the cicadas be quiet. Anyways, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and you know how folks like you and I are when you get together. You talk about how the world's ending, so to speak. We were talking about how, oh goodness, the majority of the population is just, they're so unprepared. Not just unprepared in the sense of, you know, they don't have the stuff, they don't have food, they don't have guns, they don't have ammo, they don't have a garden. They're unprepared up here. They have no concept of what's going to happen. And the argument also is that folks of the preparedness world is probably just as unprepared in a different way, maybe, but just as unprepared for what's going to happen. I don't as far as the normies, okay? I think it's pretty safe to say they have no clue. Even the ones that may have a little bit of a gut feeling that something's off, they have no idea how bad it's going to be when the millions and millions of illegals that's poured into this country start to spread out more and kind of take over and spread their third world mentality. There's things that I cannot say on this channel of stuff that's happened in other countries and stuff that's happened in this country by illegals. And that's the thing. I don't think a lot of Westerners, Americans, really have a real concept of what life is like in some of these countries. I think that, media and stuff likes to romanticize things, and the grotesqueness, the savagery that is seen in certain places that a lot of these people that are coming here, and they're bringing that with them. That right there alone is going to be such a shocking wake-up call for so many people. This war for dominance between us and China, that's gonna keep going and going, and our economy failing, our dollar failing, inflation going up. People are starting to feel that. They feel that in their pocketbook, but it's going to get to the point that they wake up one day and they realize that, you know, we're barely surviving. You know, we have to run to the government for help. Pandemics, next one comes along, lockdowns, social distancing mandates, mandatory, pokey pokes, all kinds of stuff. Businesses shut down, probably way worse than the last one. That's my suspicion. The next one, when it's the real one, it'll be way worse than the last one. People are not prepared for this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, like I said, I think folks like you and I aren't really prepared in some ways. You know, we have these ideas of how we think it's going to be. You know, we think that it's just going to one day wake up and it's crazy, right? That it's this black swan event. Excuse me, my voice this morning. Have a little sip of Joe. That we're just going to wake up one day and it's just going to be chaos. You know, one day it's normal and the next day it's just chaos. And so we're preparing for that all the while, and I'm saying we loosely, but we as preppers, we prepare for that, for this big, chaotic, singular event that's just going to shatter our world. And the whole time that we're sitting there doing that, we're watching our world fade away and change day by day. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wow, what happened? It hit the fan, and I wasn't even aware of it, I guess. That's what we're going to see. The Civil War stuff that people talk about. I think a lot of people have this idea that the Civil War is going to be us against the government. I don't think that's the case. I would be shocked if there's ever any type of civil war where the people arm up and go take on the government. There may be little pockets at some point of people trying to start something with the local or something like that government. But I think the Civil War is not going to be us against the government. That's not what the government wants, for certain. The ones that are pulling the strings, they want the Civil War to be us against the other us, the other people. The illegals that are pouring across the border, gang wars to break out between them. Regular people like you and I, they pour into our areas and they start doing all their stuff. And regular people like us, standing up against them. And in the end, the government, I don't think, would take our side. And so the Civil War isn't going to be Americans against the government. It's going to be some Americans against illegals and other Americans. It's a kind of a left versus right thing in a lot of ways. As much as I hate that, I absolutely, for years, I've hated this left-right dichotomy. I despise it. But in the end, that's probably what it's going to be similar to. And I think most people aren't prepared for that. I think there's so many preppers that are preparing for government to completely collapse. I mean, I talk about collapse all the time. But I want to make it clear that when I speak of collapse, I'm not speaking of the government collapsing to the point that it no longer exists. When I say collapse, I mean that the constitutional republic collapses and another form of government has taken its place. It's not that there's not going to be any government. It's that the government that will exist will be far, far worse than what we have. Don't buy into the Hollywood hype that it's just going to be a complete collapse and it's anarchy and it's every man for himself and whoever's the strongest and the most guns is going to win. That's a very, very unlikely scenario. And that changes a lot of things because there's so many people I've talked to. Oh yeah, when it gets to that point, and it's every man for himself. You do what you have to do to survive because it doesn't matter there's no law. No, there will be law. Even during the wild, wild west, which wasn't that wild, but still during the Wild West, when people committed crimes and murders and stuff, they still got hunted down by the law. It may have taken a while to find them, but they still were hunted down and prosecuted for their crimes. So don't think that there's not going to be a government to come after you. In fact, it'll be just the opposite. There'll be an even bigger government to come after you. And people just, they're expecting, and I think they're planning their preps and their preparedness plan around there being no government, that it's every man for himself. I can do whatever I want. All these regulations and restrictions are now out the window. I can do what I want. Your paperwork doesn't matter. Certifications won't matter. None of that's going to matter because it's just going to be chaos and anarchy. Oh, it's going to be chaos, but there'll be a very large constricting, controlling government. And it's going to matter. As an example, and don't take this the wrong way. Now, hear me out. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, it doesn't matter that you go get proper training, whether it's medical or otherwise. It doesn't matter that you go and you get CPR certified or something like that. As long as you know how to do it, That piece of paper, that's we're against the system, right? We're against the system. We don't need that piece of paper. There is some truth there. That piece of paper does not mean you're an expert, but it does give some validity to what you're doing. And as an example, do you know in China, if you come upon someone that's having a heart attack and you try to give them CPR, if you do not have some type of certification, like, I don't know if they have the same thing over there, but let's say here in America, it's like an American Red Cross or an American Heart Association, that you took certified training, right? I'm a CPR certified, right? That little piece of paper that you took for a few hours class. If you don't have that in China and you're doing CPR on someone, you can be arrested and thrown in jail. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that we could get to. So this idea that, well, I don't need to get any kind of proper training. I don't need to know how to do things the right way. Actually, you probably should. I mean, I'm not advocating everyone do everything by the letter of the law, but you have to understand that the path that we're going down is not less government and more just total anarchy, no government. The path that we're going down is bigger and bigger, stronger, more overreaching, more controlling government. And so we have to plan for that. And that's where I think a lot of people just aren't, they're not seeing that. They're not seeing that it's going to be even bigger. It's going to be even more controlling. And that's a different type of future for us. If I'm planning for there to be no government, that's one thing. But if I'm planning for there to be a bigger, more controlling one, that's different. And I think that's what I mean, that a lot of us are just, we're not thinking clearly. And I want to encourage you. I've been victim of this. Okay. So I don't want you to sit there and think, oh, this Travis guy thinks he's better than us and he knows things and he's figured. No, that's not it. I fall into this sometimes. I have to keep myself in check. Like, wait a minute. It's probably not the likely scenario that's going to happen. I mean, yes, I can put that back there on the shelf so that there's an idea or a plan if needed, but the likelihood that it's not going to happen, right? Like it's not going to just be every man for himself. We're going to have to work around the system and everything, an even bigger system to survive. And honestly, in my opinion, that's even more difficult. And so while we've got these mindless normies out there that are completely clueless that anything really is going on, we have a lot of ourselves, our prepper, our homesteaders, that kind of have this idea that I've just got to hold out a little bit longer until everything falls apart and collapses, and then I'm free. I can just live how I want to live, and I'll survive then for sure, because I'm ready to just be this, primitive survivalist and every man for himself. It's not going to be that way, and we have to plan around that. Yes, getting as far away from city and government is going to be your best bet, but it's still going to be around, and probably a lot more than ever before. And that's going to be a different kind of thing. And we need to be prepared for that, planning for that. We need to be getting our houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.